Hey, this is Moo, and this video is just to teach people how to do basic PI with my sort of no-hassle, build one thing and just take it off the damn planet. It's meant to require minimal interaction and less hassle, less time transporting stuff around between planets. Of course, if you want to do higher stuff like P3s and P4s, generally you're going to have to shuttle stuff between, but this is just a good starting point, solid money, and not much trouble. So the first thing that you'll need to do is get yourself a command center and a ship that can hold a command center. Maybe a ship that can hold more command centers. Here I have an Ideron 5, and you can do this from anywhere in space. So if you're doing this in nullsec or lowsec, which is what I recommend because yields in highsec are just terrible, you're going to want to load up all your command centers in your Ideron or whatever, what have you, and then either sit it in a tower like I'm doing right now, where you're safe, or you fly to a safe spot and cloak up. You just have to be somewhere in the solar system to deploy your command centers. You don't have to be anywhere near the planet. So then you've identified, I guess you've already been at Dotland or something, you've identified the planet you want to set up, you have the correct command center, so you right-click in space, find the planet you want, and look at it in planet mode. And this is a storm planet that I'm looking at right now. What I do first is I turn on See Other Characters' Networks, because it's sometimes helpful to decide a good place to put down your command center to know where everyone else is extracting, so you're not extracting the same place. There's two things I want to get off of this planet to make coolant, which is what I'm doing here. Aqueous liquids and ionic solutions. This is a case where the ionic solutions all happen at these two particular bands, and the aqueous liquids are a little more spread out, but they're mostly towards the poles. So ideally, I want to plant my command center somewhere between those two areas. And that way I can move my extractor heads more easily and get both of them. So as you can see, I'm kind of jumping around between the two resources. I'm playing with the scan resolution tool to try and figure out where the good hotspots are. And eventually I'll pick a place to put a command center. Now, it should be noted that you don't have to put your command center anywhere near your factories or whatnot. It doesn't matter. It can be on the other side of the planet. It doesn't even have to be connected. The only reason that you want to put your command center close to your factories is because when in the future you look at this planet, it'll automatically zoom into your command center. So this makes it a little more convenient. So here I put down my command center. And once it's down, I want to upgrade it. This character has Planetary upgrades 4, Command Center upgrades 4. So I'll just do all of that right away. It'll cost me some money to do it. Submit my request. And you'll see over in the kind of left-hand box, it'll give me a price. And I'll go ahead and submit it. Now my Command Center is built. Now I have enough grid and CPU to build the rest of my settlement. So in this setup, because the yields are typically pretty good in nullsec, I like to go with 2 launch pads. And launch pads are the things that allow you to get stuff to and from the customs office. They're also pretty good storage units. The only time actually you'd ever want to use just a storage unit is if you're desperately low on CPU, which you're not going to be in a setup like this. You will be in a factory planet. So here you see I have 2 launch pads set up one on top of the other. And then I have 2 extractor control units at the top and bottom. So this nice little chain. It's not really perfect, but whatever. It's close enough for jazz. Now I have these 4, and now I'm going to set up 6 factories. First I have the basic factories. And these are going to go pretty close to my extractor control units. They're going to go on either side, top and bottom. And these are eventually going to be linked to that launch pad. So what's going to happen is that the raw materials are going to come in from the extractor control unit, go on a launch pad, and then go out to these basic factories. In the middle, in between here, these are my advanced factories. This is what's going to pull the commodities, or I think they're called basic commodities, out of the launch pads that are fed into it by the basic factories. I'm going to feed them into there, and they're going to combine them into coolant and throw them back into the launch pad. It's very important that you do things this way. Always route your materials to and from the launch pads. Never go from an extractor control unit, for example, directly to a factory, because what happens is the factory only needs 3,000 of something, or maybe it's full at that time because it's in the middle of the cycle. Anything that you can't immediately use just goes away. You lose all that material. So now I'm going to put my links up. You can see the basic factories and the extractor control heads are connecting directly to the launch pads. The launch pads are connecting to each other. And these two advanced factories, they will just need to link to a launch pad. It doesn't really matter which one, but you only need one link. Try and get away with as few links as you can possibly get away with, because your links, as you can see sometimes in the little pop-up, they do eat grid and CPU. So this is basically what it's going to look like. So go ahead and submit those changes, pay some more money. Alright, now let's start extracting stuff. Now if you have, on a regular size planet, if you have command center upgrades for, like I do, you're going to be able to do 5 extractor heads per extractor control unit. Sometimes you'll get lucky, you'll get 6. If it's a bigger planet, maybe you only get 4 on one of them. Whatever, you should have about 10 total extractor control units. Now here, because this is the first cycle, I'm doing a shorter cycle. Normally I do about 2 days. I'm going to set this one for 4 hours, then later I'll come back to it and probably set it for 2 days. But right now, I'm just going to set it up for 4 hours so I get a little bit of extra material in there to start all my cycles with. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, and just start the program, or submit the program. Now, once you submit the program, you have to go back into it, and you'll see that I've got no destination set, so then you set the route up, you click on the launch pad it's going to, and that'll make sure that your stuff just doesn't disappear in thin air. And then I just go and do the same thing with the other extractor control unit. This one's going to grab ionic solutions. I'm going to set it to the same time duration. You see, like, after I build 5, it gives me that warning about my grid. So yeah, I'm limited to that. So I'll adjust my fine-tune, pick some spots for these guys, set them down, and start my program, and then set my route to the launch pad the same way I did before. This is another reason, by the way, I use 2 launch pads instead of 1, because with the yield rates that I'm going to be getting off of a nullsec planet, these things are going to extract a lot. You can see there my rate per hour is pretty high. So it's good to have 2 of them just so I don't get overflow. Now I go to my basics. This top one I know is going to be pulling aqueous liquid, so the schematic I want to put in is water. So you put in the water schematic, it has no route. You set the route to that same launch pad that you're extracting the aqueous to, and then it'll send it right back. But there's nothing heading to them. That's fine. Set your routes, go back into the launch pad. There's a little bit of like excessive clicking when you first set these things up. Go back in the launch pad. Now there's nothing in the launch pad right now for you to set routes on, but that's okay. What you can do, check your routes, and you'll see you have a pending aqueous liquids incoming. Choose that incoming and say create a route. And then you'll create routes to each of those 2 factories. And this means that whenever that aqueous liquid does come in, it's going to send it right to those factories. The factories turn into water, send them back to the launch pad. And here's my complete routes. You see I have like aqueous liquids going out twice, water coming in once, and the extractor control unit feeding in. Everything's set up the way it should be. So now we're going to do the same thing down here. We're pulling ionic solutions and turning them into electrolytes. We just go through the same routine as we did before. And once again, we set our routes using the incoming route for the ionic solutions. Double check our stuff. Looks good. It was good to double check stuff because there's nothing worse than coming back to your planet after like a day or so and find out that you've just like lost tons of resources because you forgot to set a route. Okay, now it's time to do our advanced factories. This planet is going to be producing coolant. So find the coolant schematic. There's a lot of schematics here. Pick coolant. And set your route. It doesn't matter which launch pad you set it to. Here I'm splitting them up. It doesn't really matter. Not a big deal. Just make sure that it's going somewhere. So here you see that, yeah, we have coolant coming in. We're going to go ahead and set our water from that launch pad to go to that advanced factory. Now we're going to go down to the other launch pad. And we're going to find our electrolyte incoming route. And set that to go over here. So now whenever electrolytes and water get fed in, they'll go there. Now, the nice thing about this is that if you try and send it to the wrong place, you'll get a little red warning saying that you don't need that material in that factory, so you know you made a mistake. And then just do the same thing on the other side. Alright, and now it looks like we're good. One last quick check we want to do is just, with nothing else on the screen, mouse over your launch pad. You can see the connections here. In this kind of a setup, you're going to have about 6% link usage to and from your basic factories, and about 3% to your advanced factories, and then whatever it is from your extractors and the tiny little bit they're using in between the two launch pads. Now, you do this to make sure that you don't have something that's sitting at very low usage, which means that you probably made a mistake and have to go back and check your routing before you submit your routine. But everything looks good here. So we're going to go ahead and submit. And now our planet is running. And I'll probably come back to this in a little bit, take a look at it, make sure that everything's running the way I want it to, and probably set the cycle time to about 2 days or so. I recommend that you set a cycle time about twice as long as you think you're going to be able to check on it. So if you think you're going to check on these planets once a day, set it to 2 days. You'll get better extraction efficiency that way, and a little bit of leeway in case you forget a day or you're late or whatever. Alright, well, I hope that helps you, and I'll catch you later.